Welcome to A Year of War and Peace. I'm your host, Brian E. Denton. A Year of War and Peace is a daily, year-long, chapter-by-chapter reading of and meditation on Leo Tolstoy's epic novel, War and Peace. In these videos and podcasts, you'll be treated to a free reading of one chapter per day of the novel, plus a reflective essay I've written individually tailored to that day's chapter. These readings are offered for free, though if you'd like to support me, you can do so in one of three ways. First, you could purchase my ebook, A Year of War and Peace. It features the entire novel, plus all of my reflective essays, and it's only $2.99 on Amazon.com. You could also become a patron at patreon.com/Brian E. Denton. If you sign up there, you'll receive a sonnet once a month, plus a link to an ebook of my collected sonnets. Finally, if you like, you can make a one-time donation to my PayPal account. The email there is brianedenton@gmail.com. You can also use that email to contact me. I'd be happy to hear from you. Your support is greatly appreciated. Today's reading and reflection is on Chapter 247. Chapter 247. Meanwhile, the city itself was deserted. There were hardly anyone in the streets. The gates and shops were all closed. Only here and there round the tavern solitary shouts or drunken songs could be heard. Nobody drove through the streets, and footsteps were rarely heard. The Poverskaya was quite still and deserted. The huge courtyard of the Rostovs' house was littered with whips of hay and with dung from the horses, and not a soul was to be seen there. In the great drawing room of the house, which had been left with all it contained, were two people. They were the yard porter Ignat and the page boy Mishka, Vasilievich's grandson who had stayed in Moscow with his grandfather. Mishka had opened the clavichord and was strumming on it with one finger. The yard porter, his arms akimbo, stood smiling with satisfaction before the large mirror. "Isn't it fine, Uncle Ignat?" said the boy, suddenly beginning to strike the keyboard with both hands. "Only fancy," answered Ignat, surprised at the broadening grin on his face in the mirror. "Impudence! Impudence!" They heard behind them the voice of Mavra Kuzimichna, who had entered silently. "How he's grinning, that fat mug! Is that what you're here for? You've cleared away down there and Vasilievich is worn out. Just you wait a bit." Ignat left off smiling, adjusted his belt, and went out of the room with meekly downcast eyes. "Aunt, I did it gently," said the boy. "I'll give you something gently, you monkey," cried Mavra Kuzimichna, raising her arm threateningly. "Go and get the samovar to boil for your grandfather." Mavra Kuzimichna flicked the dust off the clavichord and closed it, and with a deep sigh left the drawing room and locked its main door. Going out into the yard, she paused to consider where she should go next, to drink tea in the servants with Vasilich, or into the storeroom, to put away what still lay about. She heard the sound of quick footsteps in the quiet street. Someone stopped at the gate, and the latch rattled as someone tried to open it. Mavra Kuzimichna went to the gate. "Who do you want?" "The Count Ilya Andreevich Rostov." "And who are you?" "An officer. I have to see him," came the reply, in a pleasant, well-bred Russian voice. Mavra Kuzimichna opened the gate, and an officer of 18, with the round face of a Rostov, entered the yard. "They have gone away, sir. Went away yesterday at vesper time," said Mavra Kuzimichna cordially. The young officer standing in the gateway, as if hesitating whether or not to enter, clicked his tongue. How annoying," he muttered. "I should have come yesterday. What a pity." Meanwhile, Mavra Kuzimichna was attentively and sympathetically examining the familiar Rostov features of the young man's face, his tattered coat, and his trodden-down boots. "What did you want to see the Count for?" she asked. "Oh, well, it can't be helped," said he in a tone of vexation, and placed his hand on the gate as if to leave. He again paused in indecision. "You see," he suddenly said, "I am a kinsman of the Count's, and he has been very kind to me. As you see," he glanced with an amused air and good-natured smile at his coat and boots, "my things are worn out, and I have no money, so I was going to ask the Count—" Mavra Kuzimichna did not let him finish. "Just wait a minute, sir, one little moment," said she. And as soon as the officer let go of the gate handle, she turned, and hurrying away on her old legs, went through the backyard to the servants' quarters. While Mavra Kuzminichna was running to her room, the officer walked about the yard, gazing at his worn-out boots with lowered head and a faint smile on his lips. What a pity I've missed Uncle. What a nice old woman. Where's she run off to? And how am I to find the nearest way to overtake my regiment, which must by now be getting near the Rogomovsky gate? Thought he. Just then, Mavra Kuzminichna appeared from behind the corner of the house with a frightened yet resolute look, carrying a rolled-up check kerchief in her hand. While still a few steps from the officer, she unfolded the kerchief and took out of it 25 rubles and hastily handed it to him. If His Excellency had been at home as a kinsman, he would of course, but as it is, Mavra Kuzminichna grew abashed and confused. The officer did not decline, but took the note quietly and thanked her. If the Count had been at home, Mavra Kuzminichna went on apologetically, Christ be with you, sir. May God preserve you, said she, bowing as she saw him out. Swaying his head and smiling as if amused at himself, the officer ran almost at a trot through the deserted streets toward the Yuza bridge to overtake his regiment. But Mavra Kuzminichna stood at the closed gate for some time with moist eyes, pensively swaying her head and feeling an unexpected flow of motherly tenderness and pity for the unknown young officer. All right, that concludes my reading of chapter 247. I will now proceed to my reflection on the same. A Year of War and Peace, day 247. Eschew outwardly before the world. In today's chapter, a kinsman of Count Rostov comes begging for some of the Count's famous philanthropy. Unfortunately for the kinsman, the good Count has already evacuated Moscow, like pretty much everyone else in the city, so the kinsman is left only with Mavra Kuzminichna to beg from. The young man is looking pretty bad, much in need. His coat and his boots are all in tatters. Mavra Kuzminichna provides him with a little bit of money and some blessings that he go with God on his journey. What emerges from this chapter is the sharp distinction between Count Rostov's charity and the charity of Mavra Kuzminichna. Count Rostov's charity might be more a case of being unable to say no rather than an abiding commitment to altruism. It's also fairly clear from previous chapters that he likes to boast of his benevolence. He likes to be seen giving and spending on others. Mavra Kuzminichna is a bit different here. While it's true that she doesn't give much, she does give some. But look closer at how she gives. She doesn't offer the Rostov kinsman money to advertise her own beneficence. There is no one left in the city to see, after all. In addition, she makes sure that the kinsman understands that it is not she who is giving the money. This selfless, godly giving juxtaposes perfectly with yesterday's more brutal display of human nature. It's a nice little palate cleanser. We need it, too. Things are about to go full Tolstoyan misanthropic up in here. Daily meditation. Keep God more sparingly in your mouth, but abundantly in your heart. Be precise in effect, but social in show. Kith more by your deeds than by your words, the love of virtue and hatred of vice. And delight more to be godly and virtuous indeed than to be thought and called so, expecting more from your praise and reward in heaven than here. And apply to all your outward action Christ's command, to pray and give your alms secretly. So shall ye on the one part be inwardly garnished with true Christian humility, not outwardly with the proud Pharisee, glorifying in your godliness, but saying, Christ commandeth us all, when we have done all we can. And on the other part, ye shall eschew outwardly before the world the supposition of filthy proud hypocrisy and deceitful dissimulation. James I, Basilicon Doran. All right, that concludes my reading of and reflection on chapter 247, complete with all manner of mispronunciation. You're welcome. I hope that you enjoyed it nonetheless. If you did, please consider supporting me. You can do so either by purchasing the ebook, A Year of War and Peace, becoming a patron at patreon.com, or making a one-time donation at PayPal. The links to all that are down below in the show notes. Tomorrow, we're going to be reading and reflecting on chapter 248. I hope you'll join me. Until then, take care of yourselves and others.